Well, welcome back, everyone. Fun fact, we were actually supposed to have this segment before the break, but it went so incredibly fast that we just weren't ready with the graphics and everything. Because even though that looks very much in Fnatic's favor, I think they really pressed the gas down to finish that game so quickly. Let's take a look at the draft as our indicator of how this series might evolve. And I certainly do hope for Matt that it evolves from this place. And you had both had an interesting observation in terms of where the inspiration may have come from
Well,
Matt.
first of all, big props, because you mentioned Kalista Draven banned.
Yep.
It was, but in response, Sivir and Zero were banned. So they're like, if you're going to take out our early game AD carries, we're going to take away your scalers. And didn't work that well for Mad Lions.
No.
No, and I also think in general that when all of these S-tier picks are down, right, the early game, the scalers, etc., we start to see the Lucian Nami again for Fnatic. We see the Nila for Mad Lions. I think you're going a bit deeper into the pool, and that's why I also thought for Fnatic, I think that's a bit better, right? You don't have to have this explosiveness on bot side. You can play through top lane. Wunder on the Renekton was a key champion in this game to snowball it really fast for Fnatic.
It's in fact something you called specifically in ReadyCheck, you two. But then you also said, I recognize some of these elements in terms of what Mad Lions maybe based their draft on.
All right, so we know that Mad and Excel like to play pretty much the same game. Shove mid, go into side lanes. Same thing that Nuclear does, Nisqy does as well. So Fnatic are like, you know what, Mad were like, you know what, Excel pushed Fnatic to 5 games, why don't we copy their homework but don't make it obvious? We'll take 2 elements from their game 1, and then we'll take 2 elements from their game 3, and then combine them together. But as you can see, Excel made sure they have priority in other lanes with these picks, and unfortunately mixing the 2 together for Mad did not really work, because they only ended up with, what, Treatz? 1 lane of prior?
Yeah, I think the cannon is the only lane of prio, and it got really shut down by Elyoya and by Wunder and by Razork. Razork had another super good game, right? And I think in general, when you have such a melee range comp with 1 lane of prio and you fall behind, it's looking really rough.
It was so rough, and let's take a look at how rough that top lane exactly looked. We've talked about the fact that Fnatic, yes, bot-centric team, rather, but they've also shown that they can and like to play towards Wunder at times. Now, it was a horrible time for Armut, right?
I feel like Fnatic are a multi-threat team. They have 3 lanes to carry. If they want to play through bot, they do it. If you want to play through mid, they do it. But Wunder stepped up big time onto the Renekton. We usually talk about his Ragas, but all they need to do, like Treatz said, was shut down that 1 lane of prior, and then they took over the jungle. Also, Razork making sure that he's there in time to shut that down in the early game. Wunder snowball.
Yeah, and also Nisqy on the Nocturne, right? He wants to make successful plays in early game, and when he doesn't really get any successful plays, he doesn't really have a job, right? He's just sitting, getting pushed in by Victor the entire game, getting dove by Wunder, getting dove by Razork. Like, this Nocturne didn't have a job in this game, and I think that really hurt Mad Lions, because as we said before as well, when Nisqy is unleashed on the map and can make plays, that's when Mad Lions shine.
Yeah, maybe doesn't seem like the right fit necessarily for him, but this is a game 1, so adaptations can be made. What do you make of perhaps the top lane being an issue for Mad Lions going forward when you look at kind of the pool? Of course, Gwen has been played by Armut. His Gnar is, of course, a famous pick by him, but the cannon was something that was tunneled on also in the Rogue series.
I mean, I think it's time to sound the horn for Armut here. I
Yes.
think you call in the horn and you just pop the ult in team fights and you look strong. I think Mad Lions, they're a team that really needs some engaged tools and really need this like clear way of winning team fights. And I think Armut on the cannon just wasn't it in the game 1 here.
Well, since oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I really like that, and I also wanted to throw into the mix potentially something like a Sejuani. It's a really easy way to tank the front lane and just engage fights.
Because something has to give, right? Let's take a look at the final fight that then, you know, made the Nexus explode.
Final
Because we
fight?
missed it, we were running
Final
over.
fight, 18 minutes. I don't know, I was putting my shoes on to try and run to get here.
Exactly. So what is it that makes this go from bad to worse or from good to great for Fnatic?
I feel like there's just no damage coming in from Mad. You see that Elyoya is already poked down to like, what, 20% HP. He's supposed to be your front line on the Poppy, and that cannon goes into only 1 person. That's very little damage. Wunder on this Renekton has snowballed out of control. He's 2 to 3 levels up his opponents, so he's able to decimate the backline.
Yeah, Mad Lions only have melee range damage, and Wunder is just sitting on top of them, dealing more DPS than the entire Mad lineup on himself. So I think after these kills and they have the Herald, I think this charge on the Nexus Tower was quite unfortunate for Mad. If someone could have just hit it 1 more time, that would have been great, but after this it was just game over, right?
And funnily enough, it was so focused around top lane because some of the pre-game banter on Twitter also centered around top lane. more specifically, Armut and Wunder. We're going to take a look in just a second. Armut saying, yes, it's going to be a quick day for you. Wunder, you can go back to WoW. And then Wunder being like, no, it'll be you. I think Wunder gets the better end of the stick.
I was about to say, I think Wunder's going to send himself to play World of Warcraft real quickly, since there's a new expansion and everything, because he was playing absolutely out of his mind. And yes, you can argue that it was just one gank, but the fact that he takes over the entire lane/game through one gank from Razork speaks miles for this guy.
It's a bit of a gap. What does Matt have to do? They are staying on the blue side, Treatz.
Yeah, and I think we can't put Armut down too much. He also got really outplayed in terms of pathing by Razork as well, right? He didn't really make like a game-defining mistake or anything. He just got kind of bullied by Fnatic. So I think in general, I just want to see Armut on a tank for next one. Try to have some more aggressive options on bot side as well for Mad Lions, I would say. I think that would help them a lot.
And I guess, you know, what we have sung their praise in the past being the support mid-jungle roaming. Do they need to set them up a bit more for success there? Because Elyoya, I mean, I could barely see him in this game because Razork was playing so well.
Yeah, and I think just having some fighting potential mid lane as well. Like, Nocturne is not the greatest fighter in mid lane, right? I think I would like to see something like the Talia, like the Sylas for Nisqy, where he can really make some plays around mid lane.
I think that's the thing that hurt them the most. The fact that Nisqy in the mid lane did not have any of that priority to give the mid-jungle duo the potential for the roams, for the skirmishes, for the 2 versus 2. As Talia is banned, I'm expecting to see at least something like a Sylas, even maybe something like a Twisted Fate to come out to assist with the side lanes.
Oh, the forbidden Twisted Fate.
For Mad this time.
For Mad this time. Treatz, when we look at it from Fnatic's perspective, they are now in a situation where they're kind of in a very comfortable couch when it comes to drafting, right? What are the elements that have gone in their favor because of the draft that they picked in game 1 and the fact that they won it?
I think the biggest win for Fnatic must be their top side in this game. I think that they had a clear plan with the Renekton right and with the Trundle just hammering home the top side advantage. And if it works in every game and Wunder can get this type of lead in every game, then I think it will be a very easy series for Fnatic. Obviously, Mad Lions will adapt, right? They won't just go for the same strat over and over. They will have an answer to this if the Renekton is coming out from Wunder again. So I'd like to see the response from Mad Lions, and I think that they just want to make the top side a bit more calm, I think, and try to play more on the bot side.
And since we talked a lot about fist fighting towards the bot side of the map, I just want to remind everyone that Excel caused some damage to Fnatic with the Nilla, where Fnatic banned it in all other 4 games after game 1. Right here, they managed to beat it very convincingly, so you do save yourself that one ban, and you can keep the same rotation of bans, because it's worked for you. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, and for Matt, I think it's going to be like, okay, should we now drop a Sivir over Zeri ban, try to get it for ourselves, and what is that going to cascade into on the other side? We'll see. Fnatic, they kept their win streak alive and now strike first in this best of 5. How does the Mad Lions bounce back? Let's send it over to the casters for game 2.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. We are here for game 2, and what a quick day it's shaping up to be. I had a quick look, and I can't give exact numbers, but that game is probably the 2nd or the 3rd fastest ever in the history of the LEC. Ever.
Not bad.
Pretty good. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad. Decent.
Slightly quick.
Some would
it's
say.
All right, mate. Isn't it?
It's all right.
Yeah. So what do Mad do? How do you change things? Do you change things?
I don't know. Well, listen, bro, I'm an analyst. My job is to be able to assess what's happening in the game. What I can tell you is that was a fast game, and I haven't even had time to finish reviewing it yet. Okay? Yeah, I mean, Mad have to bounce back is the short term. That man on your screen, Razork, he's just... Treatz is the one that brought it up to me. MVP candidate for playoffs for sure.
100%.
He's had a stellar performance. Let's see if he can continue that performance as we get ready for draft in game 2.
On the blue side once again, Fnatic on the red. Last time we saw Sivir and Zeri banned away by Mad Lions. Draven and Kalista were taken away by Fnatic. We were discussing backstage whether or not you'd swap out one of those AD carry bans to put in a Trundle ban just to try and neuter Razork a little bit.
So my theory is you actually stick with the same bans you had coming through into this game, and instead you take Lucian for yourself, because the AD carry pool gets trimmed immensely. No, they're actually going to ban away the Poppy for themselves. And with that in mind, I think they will give over the Lucian, and they'll maybe take the Trundle for themselves in that regard, or they'll just straight up pick up the Lucian, and then knowing the enemy can pick up the Poppy in that instance.
first pick Lucian, definitely a possibility. Talia removed. Obviously, Yuumi's still available as well. Yuumi Sivir, very strong when it gets to later portions of the game. We'll see if Mad Lions decide to prioritize that. And it will be the cat for Kaiser. Not a champion he is synonymous with. Usually we like to see more on engaged champs, someone that can have a bit more proactivity, but Yuumi is the flavor of the month right now, and for good reason.
I do wonder why why Mad are choosing to give Fnatic this Trundle, because it feels like a no-brainer for Razork. He's literally only played 2 champions in playoffs, Poppy and Trundle.
And he's won every Trundle game he's played.
It's a no-brainer for Fnatic. There's no reason to change anything here. He has to do the quick Z hover, as he often does, but yeah, like it's an easy first rotation for Fnatic. They're gonna lock in the Nami next. Why change something that you just wanted sub 20-minute game on, right? Like the only area they really need to be flexible in is their mid and jungle. The question is how to Mad now change things.
I think you could start by picking up a tank here immediately, farm it instead if you want to, because you know the response can't be renekton immediately. They need to have the priority on the Nami, and because of that, it forces you into a situation where you can pick up a top laner. They don't go for a tank in this instance, they go for the Aatrox, but surely the third pick will just be the Sivir in that instance, and Nami for the response of Fnatic.
That makes the most sense. Aatrox obviously a little bit better than a tank into the Trundle. Subjugate doesn't have as much power. Often we see Ornn removed, Ornn played into the Aatrox side just because he's tanky, he can deal with it, but Aatrox does give you a lot more pressure up towards that top side of the map.
I think Wunder's going to play Fiora.
We've seen it a bit in LPL.
To see it.
I think he might. We'll see, but I have this feeling that he might do it. In any case, looks like the second round bans are going to be very similar. The Sylas is going to be removed. Last time we did see Mad Lions ban away the Ornn. They're going to choose to ban away the Renekton. Of course, in this matchup, while Aatrox does outscale, the Renekton does well in terms of the early matchup. I'm still kind of baffled by this blind pick Aatrox. Fnatic now have room to continue banning away junglers, but maybe they don't care. Maybe they just think that Trundle is the best jungle on the patch, and Razork is very comfortable playing into any jungle matchup as long as he's got this champion in his back pocket. They will remove the Wukong just in case. We know that Elyoya is very familiar with the champion. But yeah, I'm still a little baffled by this Aatrox blind.
I will say Armut all-time on Aatrox, 21 games, 76% win rate, so it is something he's very comfortable on. Sure. It's like his 5th most played. Doesn't mean it makes sense in the draft.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you some context. Maybe they're like, give him something he's comfortable on because he got absolutely bodied in the last game and he needs a bit of a motivation boost.
Oh, well, it's not going to be the Fiora, but it is going to be the Gwen instead. But I do like your approach to that, and I believe it could have been that pick too. It's just one that can respond to it in a way where you can play for it. Razork can still path up to top. He can still path down towards bottom. It's the fact that it creates so many options for Fnatic. And once again, a blind pickery Aatrox. Interesting when it's not into the Renekton and you're banning it out, but either way, we're moving in to the other picks. And what does Elyoya want to round it up with? They pick potential on the Lucian, potentially with the Vi now coming through from Elyoya in the mid lane. Still look for other picks, like an Ahri potentially.
I think Ahri makes the most sense. Safest blind pick in the meta right now when it comes to mid lane. Nerfs haven't come in quite yet for Ahri. But of course this does mean that Humanoid can get his hands on his LeBlanc once again. This was banned in game 1, will be left open game 2, and I think Fnatic is once again very happy with their draft. You look at the matchups and you can say a very powerful mid-jungle duo. They have a very powerful bot lane 2v2 where they'll have push. Already you're thinking about those dives. Will they look to split map? How will they look to attack the bot lane? They can leave Wunder isolated in the top lane matchup. He should be pretty comfortable. And while I think Mad Lions have a few more team fight options, I think that just in terms of comfort, Fnatic is feeling very comfortable right now.
It's the age-old saying, win lane, win game for Fnatic in this instance. Like, you get ahead of the early game, you run away with it like we just saw beforehand. If Mad Lions can stabilize, well, they have more to play for, at least with some of the champions coming through, and I still believe that it'll come down to execution. It doesn't really seem like there's that big edge to either of these teams. They definitely have ways they can capitalize on it.
Didn't really seem like there's a huge edge in game 1 either, and Fnatic ran away with that one. Absolutely dismantled the Mad Lions. They're looking to do that again here. Obviously, a lot of that off the back of Razork in the early game. We'll keep our eyes on both the junglers in that Spanish rivalry. But Mad Lions... That's Jess, by the way.
Hi, Jess.
Yeah, hi, Jess. Mad Lions currently off the back of losing to Rogue, now already 1 game down against Fnatic, could go through the entire year without winning a best of 5 in the LEC playoffs. Didn't make it in spring. Let's see if they can bounce back here against Fnatic. Summoner's Rift. Because the grass is like meticulously kept.
He's called
The
Ivan,
bushes-
right?
Yeah, but he releases the animals.
He also creates bushes.
Oh, so do you think Ivan walks around before every game? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
this bit needs a bit of watering.
Yeah,
That makes
that's
sense.
part of my lore. That's canon.
I like that. I like that. You saw Mad Lions trying to set up something down towards the bottom side, hoping that Hylissang and Upset would overstep, but they didn't. Instead, they're in that river bush. A ward goes down, but it doesn't really find anything of note.
Okay, so having a look across the map. Nothing too chaotic, nothing too crazy. You can see this little ward, this cheeky little ward over here by Fnatic to keep an eye on whether or not Mad will go for that early invade, as they often do, to drop that early ward, to get information on where the enemy jungler is starting. It seems that given the creeps will be spawning relatively soon, Elyoya is just going to start up towards the top side of the map. But Razork,
Late invade.
looks like Fnatic are in fact doing the split map, the delayed invade. This is exactly what they did in their day one matchup against Misfits, and it allowed them to attack the bot lane aggressively. And we talked about it in draft. Fnatic is looking to emulate what found them so much success when playing up against Misfits.
And what's so crucial about this is the point you brought up before, Vedius. Now that they know that the enemy red buff is not warded and no one's going for that counter jungle themselves, they can move in around the tri-bush afterwards. Just go for play and start clearing up the blue
Kaiser
side.
feels something is amiss.
He's stepped a little bit further forward now. Is he going to mount up in time? The pillar goes down, but doesn't CC him. Meaning that he can jump to Unforgiven if so required. Does exactly that. Hylissang now in for a world of hurt as he tries to walk away. Those boomerangs with the ricochet doing quite a bit of work.
Well, the question is, what will Elyoya do with this information? Because he knows his red buff is missing. He's currently clearing the walls. Will he be trying to move up towards the top side and try to go for the red side counter jungle? Because Humanoid is pushing in the mid lane. Right now in top lane, I believe the lane is pushing from Wunder as well. He's got level 2 before Armut at least. Yeah, there you have it. So even though Elyoya has the intel, there's no way of him to actually get into the enemy jungle.
Look at the pathing Razork's taking right now. Moved all the way up to his red. He is only level 2 though. The ward has disappeared. Now Elyoya, what is he up
He'll
to
be
here?
spotted.
Ganking.
He's going to
Ganking.
be spotted on the ward here.
Well,
Can they make this gank work?
We saw Razork make one like this work in game 1. Wunder can skip and slash away, but doesn't have flash on this Gwen. He's forced back, dodges away from the Q, dodges away from the Dark Blade knockup, but gets hit with the secondary. Armut looking for that third, the vital point hit. Wunder taken out for first blood. Now Razork flashing forward. Armut still has the flash of his own, but the pillar once again perfectly placed. He dodges away
He
from
doesn't
it.
have W.
Onboard trespass, enough. Onboard dash, infernal dash. Whatever that one's called from Aatrox as he's chased away by Razork.
Wow, okay, so Mad Lions walk away with first blood this time around. They punish the fact that Wunder doesn't have Ghost, doesn't have Flash, and they're able to find a kill onto Armut, able to turn things around a little bit compared to last game. Armut, of course, very low on farm right now because there was a huge stacked wave that he wasn't able to catch off the back of that gank, but now he's going to TP back in. And Elyoya is still actually hovering around in this lane, wants to provide that extra bit of protection for Armut, and now he's going to look to reset as Razork now makes his way mid.
Nisqy on the wrong side of the pillar for Fnatic's liking. You can see Elyoya trying to get up towards this top side once again. Wunder, of course, no sums on him. TP burnt, Wave pushing in as well. No one here to protect him as Elyoya could look for something. A lot of minions here though. Wunder will be able to heal up a little bit with that snip. Wunder coming in. Dodging away to the side, but Elyoya able to get him with the CC. Wunder puts the hallowed path down, but isn't able to escape.
And that's big because teleport has just been expanded by Wunder. So if Armut he sets up the freeze here instead, all of a sudden Wunder's going to be having a hard time. In the first game, it was Razork that dictated how the top lane was going to go. But here in the second game, Elyoya strikes back and sets Armut up for success instead.
And it's a much needed performance from Elyoya, given how dominant Razork was in the early game of game 1. But now they are truly setting up Armut for success. And this is going to be really big because you can see Armut, given the state of the wave in top lane, has the wave in a very comfortable position that it's slow pushing towards him. So Wunder is only losing CS, giving Armut this window to actually go back to base, pick up the null magic mantle, and now he can make his way back towards the top lane. And our observers are highlighting it for us now. You can see there's nothing Wunder can do but push this as fast as possible. It should be crashed into the tower, but Armut will arrive just in time. So of course the CS discrepancy is still very large, but in terms of the gold, Armut is in a very healthy position, and he's got a lot more farm to pick up.
And I think that's really interesting and quite funny as well is despite that Razork had the counter jungle in the early game, he was so slow to get back on his own blue side that by the time that the new red side jungle will spawn for Elyoya, the blue side will not be up for Razork, right? The XP is actually going to bounce a little bit in favor of Elyoya there because even when Razork then decides to go back to his blue buff, they haven't spawned yet. So there's some interesting, intricacies with the jungle experience going on there for them too.
Tracking camp time is very
Okay.
important. Elyoya looking for the long way round here. Razork already up towards the top side, knows that Wunder is susceptible to another gank. We'll see who wins out this 2v2. Yeah, that's what I was debating.
I feel like Trundle has the inherent advantage, but let's find out.
I mean, it's Lethal Tempo and Conqueror versus Conqueror and Arcane Comet. Armut already down to about half HP. Wunder dodging to the side. Knock up though onto Razork, and already he's down. Wunder trying to trade back onto Armut, but he just can't get the damage down. Those scissors not sharp enough to slice through Armut.
It seems that our question is answered swiftly as Armut and Elyoya come out on top once again. Humanoid now on the move as Nisqy is forced to stay in his lane. Can Humanoid get something back for Fnatic?
Doesn't really look like it, and what was really crucial there, if you had a look at some of the timers, Wunder did not have the ignite in time. Had that been earlier there to deal with some of the healing potential to come through in Armut, they may have blown it up immediately. Unfortunately, that was not the case, and no, surely not.
Just repeat it. Just repeat it. Wunder locked up once again up towards the top side, tries to trade onto Armut. His 6 needle work, not enough. Armut ticking to the ignite, but he can walk away from that one.
That was so close, you can see Armut. He should have lost his life there. Wunder couldn't quite get the second proc of the ultimate off in time, which means that he will walk away as the victor. 4 kills for Mad, but now Fnatic are looking to strike back in mid.
Nisqy dodges through the Spirit Rush, but a great chase by Humanoid, as you say. One last charge available, but the route coming out. Nisqy trying to get away. Should actually be able to escape this one. Still has the flash as well.
And Humanoid pretty much played that as good as he could have in that instance. Unfortunately, they're not able to net the kill. Upset.
Heals coming out on either side.
And aggressive.
There's still a barrier on Unforgiven as well, so he knew he was pretty safe in that situation. Looks like they're going to try and freeze the wave as Razork went in for this red buff. Upset and Hylissang trying to give him some time on this, but Razork, well, he had a stellar first game. He was the talk of the town, but now all he's going to do is go back to the fountain. Unforgiven over to the side. Actually, Razork may be able to escape. Kaiser jumps onto Elyoya. The Acroprism hitting as well. The barrier popped by Unforgiven as they continue to trace forward. Unforgiven does have the flash. Elyoya does not. Razork, though, has the frozen domain to get himself away. Hylissang low as well. Flash boomerang prediction. Unforgiven finds his man.
And that's just beautiful for Unforgiven. Maybe a bit too hype on my part, but that's beautiful.
You
don't
hype, man.
see
You
a
get
lot of
excited.
Sivir mechanics like that from a champion that's usually so stable. It's a great counter response from the Matt Lion spot lane.
But it's a reverse of what we saw in game 1,
Yep.
where Elyoya just has Razork's number. We could see Razork was trying to, well, take advantage of the fact that the second red respawn timer, he wanted to try and take advantage of it, but then he ends up getting punished. Fnatic's bot lane also getting punished as a result. This is one of the big problems. Fnatic's whole game plan was to invest on the bot side of the map. They wanted to try and do what they did to Misfits, shut down Unforgiven and Kaiser, not give them room to breathe, but Razork has kind of been dragged around the map. That early split map ended up not working for Fnatic at all.
And just one thing for certain in this series so far, it just feels so heavily jungle dominated in terms of where this game is really going. First game, Razork was the one we all talked about, but here in the second one, you have to talk about Elyoya. 100% kill participation, and a lot of those kills have been on Wunder in the top lane.
Yeah, and even in the regular season, Elyoya was one of the best junglers, if not the best jungler in the league. Of course,
I would say the best.
Got the All-Pro vote. So often he was in the enemy's faces. You can see very high forward percentage, very high jungle proximity. He was very much around his team trying to make things happen. And in the first game, we saw him neutered. We saw him castrated by Razork, who just totally shut him out of the game. Whereas in this game, we see Elyoya the one who's taking that impetus, taking that first step.
And I like what we're seeing from him on the Vi. I'm a big Vi hater. I think that as a champion, she really doesn't do a lot. Especially when often you just see junglers sitting there farming with her. But the way in which Elyoya is using her, permanently ganking, her ability to actually set up these ganks, it's very effective. Charm lands on a Razork.
Final chapter coming out as well. I don't think they knew that Unforgiven and Kaiser were going to be here. Razork tries to get away, but Nisqy takes him down for the second time this game.
And great rotations coming through from Unforgiven and Kaiser. They know that Razork does not have flash from the early invade on their red buff. And just like that, they chain up the CC. Humanoid in a response.
Nisqy still has flash here. I think Humanoid respects that.
But look at this. Game 1, it was Razork and Wunder involved in every single one of Fnatic's early game kills. And it's the same thing this time round, but not in the way that Fnatic would like. 0-3 for Wunder, 0-2 for Razork. They have been completely shut down in this early game. As Upset goes in for another trade.
On the hunt coming out, Unforgiven with a spell shield, tanking up as much as he can, but it's just not enough. Upset wins out the 2v2 alongside Hylissang. Kaiser coming across as well. Humanoid coming down as well. Now Kaiser on the Yuumi can use those zoomies to speed herself up, and I regret that I said that sentence as Humanoid looks for the chase. Chains Not available. There we go. Still hits onto Kaiser. Kaiser, though, with a bit of shielding. Crowning projectile for the slow onto Razork. The pillar coming down as well. Kaiser still trying to escape. And he manages to get out alive.
Too tanky.
He's just too tanky, man.
Tanky. Humanoid does everything that he can. But now Unforgiven is back out on the map. Really good play from Fnatic's bot lane. They finally draw some blood for themselves, as Upset's able to punish the lack of summoner spells on Unforgiven's side.
What's really crucial here is that you can just stabilize in the bot lane, put Elyoya in the mid lane, you have that Rift Herald, and you can just blow up the first turret immediately up there, and I think going from the pathing that we're currently seeing, that's probably exactly what's going to happen.
A 3,000 gold lead for Mad Lions, kind of mimicking what Fnatic had in game one. It was on for a perfect game until Upset obviously got that kill down towards the bottom side, but...
New fastest game?
I mean, no.
No, because the Herald's just been used.
Yeah, but it was
Maybe
second
the,
Herald.
Oh, yeah,
It was
true,
second
second
Herald.
Herald. We'll see if Mad can
Who
get
knows?
revenge. But I think this will also silence a lot of the doubters around Mad. Obviously, after their loss to Rogue, there was a lot of skepticism around their performance. But this is the Mad Lions that we saw in the regular season, the early game dominance. Often it would be Kaiser teaming up with Elyoya and Nisqy, and they would be attacking the side lanes, but Elyoya kind of took the game into his own hands and has done a great job in this early game. 3-0-2, been involved in 5 of the 6 kills. And now Fnatic is just trying to slow the game down, but when we think about scaling, while I do think Fnatic do have advantages in the side lane with a LeBlanc and a Gwen, when it comes to the straight front-to-back team fight, you have to give the edge to Unforgiven on this Sivir with a Yuumi on his back.
Especially because the game is never really going to get to the point where Wunder has gotten ahead and he's going to get that advantage before Armut. It's going to take a while before he really gets that towards the late game. And by that time, well, if the game continues to go like that, Mad Lions would have already closed it out, especially if you take a look at the objective stacking now. What has just been cleared?
No flash on Upset. He has to respect this. This will give Unforgiven the freedom to walk up to the lane and look at Nisqy on your minimap. You can see him flanking around. The pings have come down from Fnatic. The advantage of securing this mid tower means that you can push that wave much deeper. With the Everfrost completed, Nisqy can very easily clear these waves. Razork going to secure the top crab. Information gained by Armut. Let's see what Mad now move towards next. No dragon spawning for 3.5 minutes. No Rift Herald for 3. So no big objectives on the map. Both teams really looking for plates, or maybe a few kills here and there.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you really can look for is potentially camp respawn timers to invade on, especially when the mid lane is already cleared up with no tower and Nisqy. Seems like inevitably we'll get the push as well. You can see how he pushes up. Elyoya in the back as well, if it decides to go.
I don't think you jump on Humanoid.
They're waiting for him to use his W. If he used it there, then there was a window. You can see how easy it is for Nisqy to get the push. He just throws his Q down. He doesn't even care about trading with Humanoid, because the thing about LeBlanc, her wave clear sucks. So she has to invest a lot to be able to clear these towers. Razork now in danger.
Has to flash away the chasers on with the cease and desist, and already Razork is down. Final chapter coming out. Elyoya on the backline, though, taken out in response. Dies to the subjugate. Nisqy being chased away. Humanoid coming in. The chains land across the wall. Nisqy's going to get rooted by that, but the rest of Fnatic not in a position to follow up.
Just feels like we haven't seen a chain miss just yet. Top side.
Oh, he catches him. Flashes forward with the Q3, and Armut gets the solo kill.
Yeah, just pays it back there. You remember game one with Wunder being the one pushing Armut away from the turret, and I believe Armut had some bad blood there. Finally finding that first spot for himself.
It's one of those things where after game one, Wunder just smiles and writes top diff, and then you know that Armut comes back with the clap back, smile, top diff. Like, it's
a little harder than mythic
exactly,
rates,
you know what I mean?
Normal smiley as well.
It's the nature of top lane. It can be so heavily influenced by the jungle role, and both Razork and Elyoya have done a great job in games 1 and 2. Mad now find themselves with a 5k gold lead as we look back at this play.
Yeah, so they get the intel from the sweeper, but it's just a little bit late, so they don't get to set up for it as much as they would have liked. Lost chapter get an insane amount of value, but I do believe Offset has to cleanse the dash forward, yes, to just get the counter response and get the kill. Actually, the ultimate, I believe.
Subjugate kills them, yeah.
There you have it.
And it's frustrating for Upset as well, because that shutdown would have been huge on the Lucian. Gets you a little bit of damage back in your pockets. You can you can see he's still short of his mythic item, whereas Kraken Slayer already complete for Unforgiven. EU Masters does continue tomorrow, by the way, guys. The trailer wow, that was... Yeah. You know, you'd be excited about that, man.
Any other heralds?
I'm not going to yuck
That's
your
excited
yum.
for tomorrow?
You want to be hype about that? That's cool, you know?
I mean, let's not forget, a lot of these players came from the ERLs.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Vedius.
Yeah, no, I mean, Elyoya, he was a superstar in Spain. I mean, he had an incredible track record where he got, MVP in Spain, Rookie of the Split in LEC. Like, a lot of our best talent has come there. If you're looking for the new up-and-coming talent, that's definitely the place to go. I know you talk a lot about Dusty, and you think they're quite good, but I can't tell if you think that they're as good as everyone else's.
It's the one good NLC team we have, Betty.
No, we have X7. They're undefeated, guys.
True. That is true. 5,000 gold lead now, though, for Mad at the 15-minute mark. Don't think we're going to see a new fastest game of the split, but Mad Lions still very much in
Hang on
control
a second.
of this one.
They've got this Herald.
Okay, Betty.
Let's see what they can do with
Betty.
it, you know. If Fnatic can do it, let's see if Mad can do them one better. Razork has his eyes on the red buff, not going to be available for him. Yeah, now has his eyes on Armut. We'll spot him out.
Yeah, he can just dash away with that onboard dash. Mid lane tower does fall. Riptide picked up by, well, will be picked up by Elyoya as the bounties come across for Fnatic.
And it could just be easy as well here for Mad Lions to continue because they have on the information on the Fnatic on bot side. So with the mid lane pushed in, you can just rotate Unforgiven and Kaiser up towards the top side. Or at least just
the
hover so you
bounties
can hear
have
it in.
just come up, by the way.
Yeah.
Which means that Upset will now get this bonus gold.
That's swung the game. It's changed it entirely. It's tower for tower. Still a 5,000 gold lead for Mad Lions. And I will say, after game one, I think there was, you said it, Betty, a few doubters about Mad Lions, a few people wondering whether or not they could actually really challenge Fnatic. And for Mad Lions, I think this year has kind of been a bounce back against the doubters. Because you have to remember, like, they won 2 titles last year. Only 12 months ago, they were winning their second LEC title. Obviously, in spring, things kind of fell apart, but with the introduction of Nisqy, they rose to the top tied for, well, not quite tied first, but almost tied first with G2 in the regular season. And now, after losing to Rogue, I think some people saw another collapse on the horizon.
I mean, for sure. I mean, one of the big difference makers was the loss of Humanoid. He was considered the best mid last year, especially after Caps was struggling a little bit. And it's one of those things where after Humanoid left the roster, there were many questions around, could this roster still function? Are they still as good without him? And I mean, we all know that Humanoid is an incredibly talented laner, especially when you think about how good Fnatic was at the end of the regular season last split. Many touted them as to be favorites to win the whole thing, of course falling short in the end, but it's an interesting story for both sides. And I think that Mad Lions, while they are the expected favorites in this game, and it looks like that it's really their game to lose, we're definitely in for an interesting series as both of these teams are fighting for that final spot in Mel.
But that was one of the few issues as well. Majority of the games from Mad Lions have been that game to lose. And it's been one of the reasons why it's also been put down here inevitably. Now just waiting and pushing in, shoving waves. It just feels like with the priority they had on Drake, that's going to be the win condition for Elyoya.
Flash forward in front of Razork means it's a counter flash from Elyoya. Subjugate taking needlework going in as well. Not quite, they get it with the ignite and the subjugate. I thought that was not going to be enough. Now tidal wave coming in for the chase as well.
Kaiser's caught off.
Dumps up to Kaiser. Kaiser able to get escaped though. Hadn't been CC'd recently enough to stop that remount.
And that's where you open tap and you just spam that heal on Yuumi there coming through. It goes down to the subjugate instead from Elyoya. And a great punish there from Fnatic. Even greater flash as well to set up the cancel on Elyoya initially.
I was a bit skeptical with the flash from Razork. It felt like a bit of a wasted investment, but they end up making it work. Of course, Mad will secure a tower on the other side of the map, but these are some of these small mistakes that we have seen from Mad during the regular season. You can't afford to give them to a team like Fnatic. You know they'll be quick to pounce, and you know they'll use those opportunities to regain control over the game. This is just a good ward from Razork. You can see with a great placement of the pillar and a flash in front to deny the Q over the wall. Elyoya's going to flash over, the ignite gets dropped, and then Wunder
Second needles hit.
is able to land the needles, but you can see the subjugate still ticking away.
Damage.
The heal doesn't quite come through. And Fnatic just have enough damage to be able to secure the kill. Fnatic are then looking for more when the ultimate comes down. But a good side step from Kaiser, doesn't get knocked up, means that he can jump to safety.
And picks like that are a way for Fnatic to get back into the game. Obviously, they are still very much in the hole, 5,000 gold behind, but if they can constantly find Elyoya like that, now that Elyoya as well is a little bit less threatening because he doesn't have a flash, he's going to step forward. Riptide goes down, but Fnatic all here to defend it. Unlikely to see a replay of game one. They will be able to get the first tower with the first charge.
They've got 20 seconds, Medic.
It's not going to happen, Betty.
10 more seconds, here we go.
Okay, here we go. You can play-by-play it, man. If you want to be this excited about it, here we go.
Humanoid looking to get back to base. The Herald will connect. Medic, I don't think they're going to make it.
Oh, I was so happy for that. I was so
close.
sure they could do it, Betty.
Mad, though, in a very convincing position still. 6,000 gold is the lead. 2 minutes until the next Infernal, 20 seconds until the Baron. You imagine that the Drake will be the next big objective that both of these teams fight for. But when we look across the itemization, you can see that it is, well, maybe not.
You can see that you shouldn't miss the action in Malmo. That's a great sponsor call. I've never thought of doing that. Like, as you know it's going to come up, you just say, hey guys, look at the bottom of the screen. You know? Oh, my mistake.
He just completed an item. It's Malmo.
I did want to talk about the items, which we will get back to in just a second.
Anyway,
Two items, there we
have
go.
it.
2 major items completed pretty much for all the big carries. players on the side of Mad Lions, which means that they're primed, poised, ready to fight. And that Mad will continue to deny vision as they push into the top side. With a minute left, you expect him to take this buff. Look to reset.
Nisqy
gonna
Spirit Rush
force the
away,
ult
Charm
there.
hits as
Hang
well.
on
There's
a
the other
minute.
cross. Do you go in for this?
No, you don't.
Well, they agree with you, Vedius, because they decide to back away.
Just a bit of punch for punch there coming forward. Smite will come through from Elyoya before the Drake will spawn, and I believe so will Nisqy's ultimate as well. So not too much is lost in that exchange. Hopefully for Razork, his flash will be up before the next exchange. Outside of that factor, pretty much every summoner spell is up, except for those junglers.
Unfortunately for Razork, his flash on a slightly longer cooldown than Elyoya's, because Elyoya has those lucidity boots, meaning the summoner spell haste comes in. You can see on the side of your screen, it's going to be up just a little bit sooner than the Trundles. Tower's going to fall here in the top lane as Mad Lions continue to eke away their advantage. You can see 7,000 gold ahead, and with 30 seconds on the Drake, you have to expect they'll start setting up for that third dragon of the game.
Yeah, so Armut just back in, can pick up the wave that's been pushed in on top side. He does have that teleport. The same goes for Nisqy, but I don't know if they want to use them immediately, so they might be a little late to the objective. But if you take it, the rotations currently coming through from Fnatic, they want to facilitate Wunder on the top side, make sure that he can take the turret safely and pick up an objective bounty.
Oh, we'll run into Razork. I think that Razork wins those, so Armut gonna dash in, dash back out. Show us the cha-cha slide.
Yeah, but because you know Razork's on the top side of the map, this dragon pretty much free for Mad Lions. Fnatic have foregone it. They said we want pressure up towards this top side. Maybe we could have got a tier 2, but Nisqy here to defend as well means that is much less likely. Nisqy unable to chase the double blast cones, but Mad Lions will take the dragon and lose nothing on the top side for it.
And it just feels like Mad is in this position where they know they don't want to throw it away, right? We've seen it so many times where they just started to get over-aggressive, but this time around, they take everything very methodical. Methodical, well, there you have it. Starting up with the top side, moving down towards the bot side, right? Objective stacking going for them as well with both Rift Heralds and all the Drakes so far, so they just play it by the book as much as you can.
So if you're Fnatic, how do you rip up that book? How do you take it? You give them the instructions in the wrong order somehow. How do you find a way back into this game? Maybe with something like this, the TP comes in, they're looking for Armut. Armut does still have the flash. Humanoid there, Nisqy can chase forward with the Spirit Rush. Armut's going to flash away, and now Fnatic on the retreat. Hit Wunder and Hylissang, and as well as upset down towards the bottom side, but the TP really doesn't get too much out of this Armut. Remember, no flash on him. Fnatic looked for a little bit more, but couldn't find anything out of it.
Now, the bait is if you start off the Baron. And that's what we don't want to see, yes. We just push off it immediately and you start pushing up the wave, making sure you have a favorable map state instead. So they should just be happy that they at least got the TP as well from the flank there coming through from Humanoid, and they can play a bit safer with the map state now with a TP advantage.
Yeah, you can see that it was Fnatic that tried to force a play, and the idea is good. It's very much as you said, Medic. Fnatic is just trying their best to get something back. Finding a pick is a great way to stall, and by stalling, you get given more opportunities. But unfortunately, the TP play didn't work out. They saw Nisqy was collapsing, and while Fnatic did have the numbers advantage, the second that Humanoid was forced to flash away, there's no real way that they could commit because Unforgiven had shown up to the party. So now Mad move into the top side jungle. They found Razork once again.
Flashes away from the charm, but that is the jungler's flash down. That means he wouldn't be able to get into the Baron pit if needed for a steal, unless he had a blast cone or something. Mad Lions controlling this top side of the jungle. Unforgiven is working his way down towards the bottom side, though. Looks like they're going to try and match Wunder on this push. Could have caught him, but obviously he backs away as soon as he sees them on that ward.
So Mad maintain control. Waves are being caught by Fnatic. You can see the top wave pushing in for Mad. Bot wave also pushing in, which means that Mad move towards mid, as is expected. And you can see these two kind of hovers around the side of them. A very typical approach when trying to push in this lane is to kind of have control around this side, and then you kind of push in through that, and then you have this three-pronged attack.
It's a nice little tent.
Yeah, I couldn't find the arrow, so instead I just had lines. Where's my arrow?
The reason why we're put in this position as well is just due to the fact that Mad Lions, they know, well, we pick up the Infernal Drake for ourselves, we have the Soul, and we should pretty much win the game from there. Then we can start taking care of the Baron. So all they do right now is just, they push in waves, they wait for a response, and they just counteract the response and just disengage it completely. So that's the reason why right now we're in this slow state of gameplay where all Fnatic can do is try and find and pick up a mistake coming through from Mad Lions, but inevitably it will probably all come down to the next Drake fight we'll be having.
I mean, the easy way for Mad to win is get Infinity Edge on Sivir. And they're like, yeah, we'll just wait. 2.5 minutes, Soul will be up, you'll have Infinity Edge, we'll fight, we'll win the game, easy dub, see you next game. I think that's Mad's philosophy right now, and Fnatic is just kind of looking for that single opportunity where they can bounce back into this one. Mad, though, posturing towards the top side of the map. They are reclaiming some of that vision that they had lost earlier. Nisqy going to push in that top wave. And Wunder once again forced to catch the bot wave. This is a window where they could tickle the Baron if they so fancy.
Just get out the feather duster and
Get
do
out
it.
the feather duster, clean up the dust. Oh, they
Instead,
found
they're
Razork.
looking to tickle Razork a little bit in the mid lane. Remember, no flash on that Trundle, but the subject does come down. Culling used as well.
Hang
Tidal
on.
wave. Cease and desist onto the back line. Mad Lions trying to collapse onto this. Wunder not with the team right now. Razork able to get away, but the charm hits onto him. However, the turnaround, Fnatic on the side. The shutdown going down onto Armut. Razork able to survive the whole thing. Mad Lions now on the retreat. And this is a bad timing for Mad Lions. 40 seconds on Armut. He will have the TPs come back. Unforgiven chased away as well. Fnatic might just use this time to gain control of the mid lane, but they could also look towards that Baron.
It's just such an unnecessary force
It's random.
for Mad. We were literally just talking about the game plan. Get Infinity Edge, wait for Drake, fight them then. Instead, they're diving way too deep onto a team that's so hard to follow up on. And it all starts with Armut initiating onto Razork. He does land the chains here, but they're committed to getting this kill. Meanwhile, he's just healing it all back up with the Subjugate. And this is a great ultimate from Hylissang that completely separates the rest of Mad from this dive. Elyoya's doing what he can, and the damage is good, but again, like Humanoid and Hylissang are just providing space. The charm lands, I think they can go in, and Nisqy then immediately flashes out, which is a bit of a bait for Armut because he doesn't have flash. It's a messy fight, and it's something that Mad need to avoid doing if they want to secure this win.
Yeah, and I mean, the only silver lining for Mad Lions is the fact that Armut was the one who fell down. If Elyoya dies when he's diving that far forward with no one who can follow up, that could have just been the Baron. Now
Nisqy, no Banshee's Veil, no way away. One last auto shut down for Upset. More gold in Upset's pockets. Dragon up in 20 seconds. Fnatic starting to wrest back some control of this game.
It's another big pick here, and while Nisqy did have the ultimate, he face checks into the brush. He thinks he has control, but Fnatic very cleverly getting over the wall there. I believe they used the blast cone, may have just been the dash from Upset. In any case, it is Fnatic that will buy themselves more time, and this is what we were talking about. The only way Mad lose this game
Baron
is by making silly mistakes.
Baron.
This could be another one.
You say Baron, Nisqy does have teleport, but he's only up in 10 seconds, and I just don't think there's no way you actually get this.
They pull out the Tidal Wave, faster ultimation used as well into the pit.
Hang on, the Visions have been lost once again.
Yeah, but there's a support around as well.
Hilly hasn't given up just yet. He knows that Mad is sneaky.
I love the way he puts the ward down, and everyone from Fnatic immediately beelines towards it. Like they're
Teleport
going the other
coming
way.
in as well from
They
him.
now try and rejoin. Teleport to the mid lane, as you say, by Nisqy. Mad Lions trying to pull this Baron. Upset with the culling off towards the side. Razork, 2 seconds on his flash, is back up now. Mad Lions look for the cease and desist onto Wunder, but that's not the target you want. Elyoya in the midst of the Mortal's already lost the GA. Humanoid looking at that flank position. Armut trying to get onto Razork as well, but Wunder's putting the damage down with the needle work. Elyoya forced away. Armut forced back into the pit. Humanoid trying to do what he can from the side, and Fnatic are able to distract Mad long enough for them not to take the Baron.
Once again, such an awkward fight, and Humanoid still looking potentially. Armut is around the area.
You can catch anyone here. TP coming in as well by Wunder as they want to keep this one going. Armut has the flashback up. Humanoid chipped away by that Eclipse.
But they just gonna start at the Baron now instead?
They
it's just vision. I think it's just vision.
Has TP'd into the mid lane. But again, Mad, they're starting to feel the pressure here. Small cracks in the armor are starting to form as Mads, they're getting a little too overzealous with these fights. And Fnatic, they're playing it well. You can see this gold lead starting to taper off. But again, it's one of those situations where the win condition is pretty clear for Mad. You just have to enable Unforgiven, give him his itemization, and wait. Look, the Infinity Edge is now completed. You have an AD carry that deals a lot of damage. You just have to give him the space to do it, and the best way to do that is around a neutral objective like the Dragon or the Baron. And I think that Mad just have to relax, sit back, wait for the next Dragon to spawn, and find a favorable fight, get a few more levels under your belt, and recognize that you're making this game far more complicated than you need to.
Exactly. In turn, you've given Upset space instead. Now he's sitting on that 3.5 item on the Lucian and the threat with the Nami in the back in the late game. Quite often Lucian is thought of this, oh, he has to pop up in the early game. It's not really the case any longer. He's still a very reliable AD carry in the late game too. So I think for sure Fnatic, they found avenues back into this game by punishing Mad on their overextensions.
Let's not forget that there is like no armor on the side of Mad. You look at this frontline Aatrox, magic resist, magic resist, magic resist.
Yeah.
You look at the Pi, GA gives you a bit of armor, but aside from that, she's just got health. It's very squishy for Upset. And Lucian's biggest weakness in the late game and why he quote-unquote falls off is because of his short range. But when in the hands of Upset and when you have the Nami by your side, it's not something that you are as concerned about. So Fnatic definitely still in this game. They've been able to claw back from what was a 8k gold deficit to now only 4k. Mad, they're continuing to fight over this vision, but look at the damage once again from Upset.
It is part of the strength of Aatrox with a Yuumi on his shoulders. You can do a lot. You can see him healing back up. Tidal Wave's going to connect. That's just for the disengage from Fnatic and Mad Lions. gained control of the top side jungle. Armut looking for a little bit more.
That's a
He's
charm.
going to hit onto Razork. He does still have the flash, but he's got nowhere to go. He's rooted for the entirety of his lifespan. Next up is Wunder. No way for him to get up, and Mad Lions pick off 2. Another charm! Oh my god, Nisqy, that was beautiful. Upset and Hylissang retreating, trying to get back to their fountain, trying to get back to some semblance of hope, but Hylissang will not escape. Upset the last man standing.
That's 40-second death timers on Humanoid and Wunder. I wonder what they want to do with this. They have a mid lane pushing in. They have Baron up for the cards if they
Baron
want to do
has to
that.
be the play.
And they don't want to risk the end, as you say, Vedius. Baron has to be the play here.
It's the safer option, and of course it does put you at risk of going for another fight, but I think just secure the Baron, set up for the dragon spawning in a minute's time. Don't get too over-eager, especially with Upset still alive. But what a great fight for the Mad Lions. Finally, they're able to find that payoff. They're able to find that pick onto Razork, and they convert it into something even bigger.
So they are going to burst it down in time, but Razork did have that flash. He did have Smite. If he could make it in time, that's not going to be the case. And it all came out. A fight for vision, a fight for control around this Drake area, or Baron area, rather.
And it's going to come off the back of this charm from Nisqy. He lands 2 clutch charms in this fight. The first one you're going to see on your screen right now. Any second.
Here we go.
It's going to come in a bit.
There it comes. The
There
charm
it
over
is.
the wall from the Fog of War. Catches him out, follows it up with the Everfrost insta-kill. You can see Fire locking down the LeBlanc as well, separating Wunder. And then watch this charm from Nisqy. We're going to get the slow-mo. Boom!
Oh, it's beautiful.
Predict. He's able to land it onto Humanoid, and then they get that final kill onto Hylissang. Just great setup from the Mad Lions. Really great play from Nisqy in that final fight.
Credit to Armut as well. He landed his Q, the Darkin Blade, that got CC onto Razork. Then the charm hit after that. Razork maybe would have been able to walk out of range of the charm if he wasn't already knocked up by that CC. But great stuff all around by Mad Lions. After a shaky mid-game, they finally got control back of this game, and with only 10 seconds on the Infernal Soul, it looks like that's what they're playing for.
Exactly, just look at the map state currently. Fnatic, they want none of this. They're trying to push in on the top side instead, but Mad Lions have just responded to that adaptation, sending Armut up there instead. And he does have that teleport, so it's not going to be an issue. Mad Lions, they won the fight, they get the Baron, and now they'll finally, after long-awaited time, pick up that Infernal Soul.
Still at 2 minutes on the Baron for them. Infernal Soul, obviously a huge buff to this team. Sivir with the ricochets can do a lot of work with it, as well as the Ahri. I mean, everyone on the team has good damage, and Infernal Soul only supplements that for you. Mad Lions now pushing on 2 lanes. You can see Nisqy down towards the bottom side of your screen. Unforgiven as well in the mid lane. That should be the inhibitor tower falling here, as Mad Lions now to ring around the rosies, go down towards that bottom side and look for their second inhibitor tower of the push. TP coming in by Armut, as he wants to make sure that this turret does fall, and it will. Fnatic very much on the back foot. Humanoid trying to put some damage down, but only breaks the Banshees on Nisqy. First inhibitor down of the game, first inhibitor of the series for Mad Lions, and followed up quite shortly by the second as Mad Lions look to close this one out.
And just like that, Humanoid did pick up the Rabadon's death cap, but I don't think that's going to be enough when you're playing up against these Baron up minions. The siege continues, and the tidal wave starts it out for Fnatic, but it doesn't amount to much as the minion waves comes in towards these Nexus towers.
Charms are so lethal this late into the game.
Armut stepping forward, lands the Infernal Chains. First Nexus tower does fall. Double cannon minions still pushing in. Not even the supers yet for Mad Lions. 30 seconds left on the Baron. They're looking to continue this push, continue their advance towards their first win of playoffs. Oh,
The
sorry, no,
damage from
they
Unforgiven
won against
here.
Rogue, obviously. But yeah, they will be able to take that second Nexus tower. Mad Lions looking to even out this series. Subjugate going down onto Armut, but he still has the GA. Nisqy on the back line, shut down. But Mad Lions can just focus down the Nexus, and they will take their first win of the series.
A couple moments where it was looking a little shaky for Mad. It felt like they were trying to force plays that they didn't need to force. Perhaps they go a little hot-headed, but ultimately they will tie up the series with Fnatic. Definitely showcasing that they're not down and out. Game 1 was a bit of a rough one, but Mad Lions definitely looking to go toe-to-toe with Fnatic.
Yeah, and I mean, despite how the late game went, I think we can all agree that it's dictated by the early game who really gets to be in this position.
The junglers, man. Junglers
Exactly,
decide
it is
everything.
just the jungle diff this time around, and despite Razork being the one who found the invade, who looked to be the one pushing himself ahead, I think Elyoya found a really intelligent adaptation that was very simple, which was literally camp top again and again and again, and I'm just not going to go for a reset. That really just piloted the lead forward in the early game for Mad Lions.
Put them in such a strong position. Now Fnatic are the ones on the back foot trying to have to work out how they can deal with this idea, whether we'll see just 4 players top the entirety of the game, everyone just standing there against each other. But for now, we're going to send it over to our analysts for more on that match.
Thank you very much. We were promised a fist fight before this series, and it feels like it's mostly concentrated itself in the early to mid game, not those full-on 5v5 brawls just that often, Treatz. Is that going against your expectation for the series?
I mean, both yes and no. I think the junglers both had really insane performances, right? It was Razork game 1, now Elyoya in game 2, so a lot of it just came down to the early game, right? Like when one team has a big advantage, it's kind of up to them to close it out, so it's just the opposing team just trying to slow it down with the team fights more than the even 5v5 footing.
I think specifically with the champions that Armut and Wunder have chosen to play, the Renekton, the Aatrox that can snowball into that mid to late, of course, for Aatrox as well. Hitting the top lane seems to be the easy way out, right? And talking about hitting that top lane, it got hit, I think, way too many times.
Yeah, I mean, similarly to game 1, but now it was the other way around, even though Mad were still on the blue side. Treatz definitely saying we have to not only stop the bleeding top, in fact, we will just make Wunder bleed.
Yeah, and I think they just... Elyoya just recognized really early the hole in the armor of Fnatic, right? I think Wunder has no flash in top lane. They have 2 gap-closing champions, so it's a very obvious target for them, and I think they just executed really well.
And also, of course, Razork tried to cheese a little bit of a level 1 gank down the bot lane, which resulted in a very delayed start in his jungle, which allowed Elyoya to get the opportunity to get creative and aggressive on the map. And that's exactly what he did, and as demonstrated on your screens again, 4 times in a row, and it worked. Armut absolutely snowballed out of his mind on this Aatrox. He was an absolute beast. Add Yuumi on top of the equation, he can't die.
And how did that then work in conjunction of the rest of the draft for Mad? We saw a completely different pick, of course, for Nisqy in the mid lane, as well as now the Sivir in bot.
I feel like when everything's done and dusted, people will resort back to good old Ahri, because it has pretty good pressure in the mid lane, it has really nice roams, it has really nice team fighting, and it pairs up so well with that Vi, because Vi can very easily get isolated in the backline when she ults, but having the Ahri to dive with you, isolate the target and kill them off is so important, and it did work for them in a bunch of these skirmishes.
Yeah, and Mad Lions also just have way more range than the last game, right? So when you have this advantage, you don't just have to go full in and the full force. You can pick people off, right? With Nisqy as the charm, they can look for some Vi Qs here and there. Sivir has a lot of movement speed to back up the engage, so I think Mad Lions just had more options, and even though they fumbled in a few fights, it still felt like they were in control over the game.
I would like to take a look at a couple of those picks that Fnatic made, or the moments that Mad Lions overstepped, just because it's kind of a story that we are following for the Mad Lions. It's something, Georgia, you also did a telestrator of at the top of the day, but when they do get the advantage, they still tend to do this, right? And naturally, you don't want to do this in a game versus Fnatic, ideally.
Yeah, and it happens whilst Mad Lions are on a rotation where they get caught, usually from one skirmish going wrong. Right there, you saw it. It was Elyoya getting caught. Right here, Armut. We said how strong he is on this Aatrox. 3 levels up onto Trundle, but his team cannot fall. And when he goes back, Elyoya goes in. And I want you to look at Humanoid this entire fight, because he is zoning away the entirety of Mad, not allowing them to advance forward to follow up with the Vi and the Aatrox.
Yeah, and Mad Lions, I think, are just very trigger happy when they see a good opportunity, right? Like, they're very solid as a 5-man core, and then sometimes I think they kind of get baited into fights being good when they're obviously not. So I think when they just kind of take a breath when they're ahead and just chill a bit, like Vedius said on the cast as well, I think that's when they play their best game.
I feel like they did this in this game, but in this next replay we're going to look at, you both held your breath a little bit, because you said, okay, Matt, I see what you're doing. You're trying to brute force the issue to close the game before Fnatic can scale more. Luckily, it worked out off the back of some, I want to say, great charms from Nisqy, right? Luckily, Treatz.
Yeah, he had some really good charms, and I think Armut with his Q as well, he set up the charm here on Razork. He didn't really see it coming. It was kind of from Fog of War here, and then obviously the next charm on a Humanoid just kind of sealed the deal, and then they were thinking of ending, but they were like, okay, let's just take a little breather here, guys. We can just get the Baron, get the soul, and then end that way. So this was just one of those fights where Mad Lions actually played their spacing really well and hit the crucial skill shots.
Were they in danger here of getting run over if you see this a bit of scaling on the side of Fnatic, but also the fact that their items are coming online and like that LeBlanc is going to start hitting extremely hard?
Exactly. I think that LeBlanc was the very scariest part right there, because Mad Lions were walking into the jungle where they didn't have complete control with vision. So making sure that you know where the LeBlanc is very important. When they saw Humanoid mid lane on the wave, they were like, fine, we can force the issue. We can go through the choke point and pick whoever gets charmed. And I think Nisqy has to be a highlight from this series as well because his charms were so instrumental to these teamfight wins.
Yeah, but Mad Lions, I feel like they believe themselves to have the scaling advantage in this game, which I think I agree with. Like Sivir, Yuumi.
I mean, there's a Yuumi.
Sivir, Yuumi late game, like we all know what they can do, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think they were too stressed at closing this game. They probably said, we just screwed up a few times, guys. Let's just chill and let's just end it clean from here.
Yeah, I've seen LeBlanc turn a game around, especially in the late game, though. So always be a little bit wary. Now we're at 1-1, and I feel like for the most part, regardless of Fnatic getting those picks, we saw convincing either sides from Mad or Fnatic. I hope we're going into a more egalitarian game 3 now, where both have figured out their priority. Oops, well, they're not in the lobby yet. So we're going to talk a little bit more about it. Treatz, Fnatic on the blue side now for the first time in this series. Where will their priorities lie? More of the same?
I do think that they will still ban the aggressive AD carries. I think that maybe they're looking at the Yuumi ban. I think that that's something they could look into to kind of stabilize the late game and have a bit more of an even footing, because I do think that when you have the Lucian Nami into the Yuumi, you kind of run into the same problem over and over, right? The Yuumi in late game is just a beast.
Well, we saw in the XL series actually that Yuumi got banned out and then we never saw her again. Do you think this is the best way for the series to go forward?
I think it depends because so far Mad have been replying with 2 AD carry bans themselves, the 2 scaling champions, right? But now Fnatic being on blue side, you can maybe pick the Kalista if Draven is banned. You can maybe play that aggressive game that Upset has showed, especially in the Misfit series as well, and he managed to snowball that bot lane out of control. My question right here is that Max Wish actually is coming true. He's like, I wish I would have seen Fnatic on blue side. Well, now you get to see it.
Now I get to see it.
Yeah, and as well, I think for Mad Lions, I think something they have to be a bit scared of is that if Fnatic on blue side now ban the Draven themselves, they're kind of baiting Mad Lions. Do you want to ban the Kalista? We could pick Kalista, guys. Are you going to ban it, yes or no? I think that's something that will be also very interesting to see if Mad Lions are actually scared of the upset Kalista or if they're not. I think that's something they have to think about.
What does your gut say, Treatz, in terms of between these two teams and who's pulling ahead?
Oof, I feel like it's still kind of even. I think that sides matter a lot and the draft matters a lot, and I think that the latest draft definitely was more towards the style that we like to see Mad Lions on. They have a bit more engaged options, a bit more front to back and stuff like that. So I think it's a lot about draft, but also about players, right? I think Nisqy had a really good game, Elyoya had a super good game, so let's see if it sticks.
Armut redemption arc as well.
There we go, 2-time
Very true.
TCL champion. Woo. But talking about draft and the importance of it, we'll be covering it after the break right here on the desk, so don't you go anywhere.